we've been in the petroleum business for quite some time. We've in Illinois here with the tax abatement that came in early 2000s. We've been at the B11 range for about 10 years. is predominant for us. Obviously, there again, the incentive forced the move. We like to say that we've seen the good and the bad and the ugly over the last 10 years because the industry's changed quite a bit. The one thing that's interesting is we do see a trend here in Illinois, in particular the Peoria, Illinois region. The trend is for higher blends, B20 and even higher. We've considered going clear up to a B50 if the economics are in favor of it. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, cost, emission reductions. Some people are a little more emission happy, RIN values, and we find that a lot of times this EPA Smart Way program, it's helped continue the process of growing green. So it's been a fun project for us. There again, after a lot of trial and error, we've discovered that, especially after 10, 11, 12 years of doing this, that just a little tender love and care and a little bit of knowledge and some trial and error, a lot of trial and error, and a desire to be successful goes a long way in implementing a biodiesel program that can be very successful. If anybody, I don't know if anybody remembers these days, this is some samples of the original biodiesel when it came out years ago. There again, I'm not sure where all you folks are from, but biodiesel came out. It had some tough times. And there again, it caused a lot of issues, and we had an uphill climb, no question about it. But I do always like to throw this in there. Latest national survey, blend stock by the U.S. Department of Energy's National Renewable Lab found that 95% of the samples in 2011 and 12 met ASTM spec. Less than half of them in 2007. And I think there again, that goes to say that we did have some tough times. It was a new industry in the early 2000s, and here we are. It's changed a lot. And I think the thought process from a distributor, a customer standpoint certainly has changed and will continue to change for that matter. Some of the Agland FS biodiesel handling guidelines were a little unique, and yeah, we're probably a little more strict on our control of what we do, not just biodiesel, but probably the number 2. And there again, I don't know if, bear with me, if it's the end user, it still plays in. If you're a distributor on the other end, this also may help you as well. The one thing we've always decided that we would do from the very beginning is that we would single source our biodiesel. And when I say the very beginning is when we started our actually B20 program. We felt that pricing number 2 fuel and pricing biodiesel for lowball price was just not the answer. We felt that we needed some accountability in the product. And so we went to a single source, and we've never moved off that to this very day. Now, certainly not here as a commercial for Renewable Energy Group, but that is who we have chosen to use, and it's been a good relationship. We are BQ 9000 only. We only sell our own supply, no terminal bio. Now, what I mean by that is we bring our supply in from our single source. We bring it into our outlying plants. Our number 2 fuel is brought into our outlying plants, and then we use our biodiesel. And when I say no terminal biodiesel, a lot of terminals have gone to the biodiesel that you can get, in particular here in Illinois. We never know what that is. We're not saying it's bad product. It's just that we would prefer to know what our customer is getting and know how to handle it. We even go as far as single source trucking if possible. We use one particular company. There again, backward accountability. All the biodiesel, when it comes into our outlying facilities, which we have 4 tank farms for that, all the biodiesel is filtered when it's coming into our facilities as well as when it leaves. So if there's a problem with our biodiesel coming into the facility, we're going to know it because it's going to plug filters. And there again, as it leaves, the condition of our tanks may be such that we're not aware of them. That filtering is going to let us be aware of what's happening as it comes out. We continuously monitor our biodiesel supply tanks. Now, I want to mention not just the biodiesel tanks. We continuously monitor our number 2 fuel tanks, and that's important. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But continuous monitoring is really the key, I think, for successful high inclusion rate biodiesel usage. In Illinois, of course, we're in the Peoria market. We can get as cold as Canada and as hot as Texas. So any above ground tanks that we do have, we do heat them, and we use them all winter long. And there again, I mentioned everything leads to backward accountability. If there's a problem in the field, we want to make sure that we have a single source that we can go back to everything and see, was it our failure? Where was the failure at? And good thing we really haven't had to use that very often, and I hope we don't have to in the future. There at the bottom, the most important, I've already said it, but I want to say it again. Our number 2 distillate supply is probably one of the things that we watch the closest. The biodiesel has gotten so good in the last 5 to 7 years that we just have to watch number 2. The introduction of ULSD in 2007 really threw the market up. It changed the chemistry of that product changed. It's just a whole different beast to have to work with, in particular in the winter months. And I've got a slide in the future here that you'll be able to see. At Agland FS, regardless of the industry that we're servicing, on-site tank maintenance accounts for 95% of our fuel complaints. Now, I want to go back and say that, and before biodiesel was here, 95% of our fuel complaints came from on-site tank maintenance. And so the inclusion of biodiesel really didn't change things at all. It just brought something else to blame, if you will. Number 2 fuel today, there again, it's inherently dirty. It loves corrode. It's very corrosive. Got all kinds of stories on that. It loves water. It oxidizes very quick. And thermal degradation is very tough in today's edges as they run really hot. And so there again, just to reaffirm that the number 2 fuel is also an issue that I think we all need to be aware of on a daily basis. This is a sample. I tell you, this picture has made the rounds, no doubt about it. This is from the Greater Peoria Mass Transit District. One thing when we approached them several years ago about, they were in a low bid process, and it was just a matter of 5 times a week they would low bid. Whoever was the low bid, you brought it. They didn't know if they got 5% inclusion of biodiesel, 11, 20, 30. They had no idea. It was whoever was the cheapest. When we came in, the very first thing we did was we sampled the bottom of their tank. And there again, they're not sure if they ever had biodiesel, but we're thinking these tanks were about 30 years old. They're 3 underground tanks. This was the very first sample that we pulled out. And I think there again, I encourage people, if you're the end user or the distributor, either one, to go out and take a look at that tank, because if we would put biodiesel in this without taking a look at it, we'd have a pretty tough go, I think. Earlier, she mentioned the B20 DX program. Basically, we've kind of tried to create a program that we can. It's the same everywhere we go. We do the same very step, the same process every single time. When what we're trying to do is get the end user, there again, regardless of industry, we're trying to get their place or their tanks to an acceptable state of operability. Whether they're using biodiesel or not, that's still very important. When we do this, we can eliminate all the threats from the number 2 as well as the biodiesel. And when we've completed the B20 DX program, it allows fleets to use B20 up to 10 months per year. Here recently, the last 2 years, I probably should change this slide. We run B20 on a year-round basis. I think we got as cold as minus 16 was the low last year. We had if anybody, we had 1 truck last year, which we'll get into that in a little bit. But B11 is utilized pretty heavy in December through February for us. Even those folks who are not B20 conscious, B11 is pretty much the standard. We have no accounts that use anything other than minimum B11 on a year-round basis here in Peoria, Illinois. We're just going to keep it real simple. The first thing we do, we analyze both visually and, if need be, by laboratory, the existing fuel supply. That's first and foremost, no matter what. Doesn't matter if we're using number 2 or biodiesel. We have to know what's in that tank. And I think we're not only doing it for the customer, but quite frankly, to be selfish, we're doing it for us too. Because if anything goes wrong, they're going to come back after the supplier. And that's certainly going to be me, and that's going to bother me personally. We clean the fuel tanks. You saw the sample a little bit earlier. We do add our proprietary Diesel X additive. It has been around for about 60 years now, a little over 50 years, let's just say. And it addresses some of the shortcomings of the number 2 fuel as well as the biodiesel. For those that are not using an additive, I would strongly encourage you to use an additive. I know the Engine Manufacturers Association has certainly recommended that you use some sort of additive because of the some of the bad things that can happen with the number 2 ULSD. There again, the water we talked about, thermal stability, oxidative, those types of things. Step 4, basically, the B20DX program never goes away. We continuously monitor these tanks that we work with. These are the 4 major steps. I do want to tell a very quick story that up in Joliet, Illinois, we had a large trucking firm. We went through, we cleaned the tank, and about 2 years later, we came back. We took a bottom sample. We came 12 inches up off the bottom of a 25,000-gallon tank. They had accumulated 5% by volume water in the bottom of that tank. And so it's a natural process. So I think it's something that everybody has to continue to look at that bottoms. This is a picture of our cleaning system. It was built by one of the gentlemen, the other co-creator of the B20DX program. He's as big a fuel nerd as I am, I'll guarantee you that. He did build this. It's paid off tremendously. This is a good example. This is a company in Morton, Illinois that's got 1,000 trucks in their fleet. And they asked us to come in, and we spoke with them, and we went through the B20DX program. Far left, obviously, is the very beginning. And as you can see on the far right, hopefully everybody can see that far right picture there. It comes out crystal clean. Now, we did have to spend about a day and a half to get this ready to go. But once you get to that point on the far right, you are ready for inclusion of biodiesel. The one thing we did, we decided, you know what? We got a lot of people that are a little bit skeptical of B20, in particular the year-round. So we decided we'd go ahead and do a series of tests. The very first one we did was the Greater Peoria Mass Transit. I do want to point out there's 4 tests here. Certainly we provided all the fuel, but all the information was provided to us by these entities in whatever form. When it was done, they provided us the information. And if anybody would like to speak to any of these groups, please let me know. The first one, we put B20 in January 2011. Yep, we did it in the winter. There again, results was 8.5% fuel efficiency increase. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these numbers. But, here we're running a B20 where logically it says we're supposed to go backwards in miles per gallon. But we've actually moved forward in miles per gallon in this case. This is one of the buses, the Lung Association, Upper Midwest, and some of them you can see on the side of the bus there. We wrapped a bus here in Peoria. I was proud of it. It actually stayed on the road for several years before they got a new bus in. I always like to show that picture. R&N Trucking, there again, we went through the mass transit. One of the things we wanted to do was work through everybody's different, every setting is different. So we went from mass transit. R&N Trucking is a typical fleet, about 18 trucks. They haul concrete, they haul gravel, they haul propane, anhydrous, things like that. And They actually had a 2.55% increase. And I put the dollars on this one because it is a taxable entity. That's 9.3 cents a gallon on B20. So we were really pretty happy about that one as well. The PDC test fleet, there again, another area. This is Peoria Disposal Company. We had compactors in this. We had every facet that you see in a disposal company. They had a 5.4% increase in efficiency. There again, that added up to 19.74 cents. The G&D Integrated Test Fleet. G&D Integrated is a large regional. They'll go a lot of coming out in and out of O'Hare Airport, a lot of Caterpillar freight here in the central area, pretty much all of Illinois, I should say. This one was a bit unique in the sense that we did have to split some B20 and B11 on this test, but we still experienced a 2.1% increase in fuel efficiency. I want to mention that each one of these, there again, I don't know if I'm speaking to the end user or a distributor, but either way, it's the same story. Every one of these entities were a low bid scenario. And what we try to do is, every day somebody would win by a half a penny. That doesn't mean a whole lot when you can save these kind of percentages on increases. We're happy to say each one of these use B20 on a year-round basis, and we're fortunate enough to have their business, and we hope that continues. Probably the most important aspect of this, during this test period and the gallons, we converted this. This is on the cleanairchoice.org website. And we put in the number of gallons. And on the far bottom right, that's what we're the most proud of. 802 cars were taken off the road as a result of us running B20. And we try to encourage our customers and as well as ourselves. My dad always says, if you don't toot your own horn, nobody else will. We're very proud of this. 802 cars. It meant a lot to get that, to see that come through. I'm just going to throw this in because there again, the upper Midwest, we may have people in colder regions than even Peoria. Know your number 2 diesel. There's a lot of misconception about cold weather and biodiesel and getting it to operate. You know what? We don't have trouble with biodiesel in the winter. Biodiesel is stable. We know where it is. We know it's cloud point. We know it's clean. We know we're very comfortable at all times with it. But the number 2, now, this is a little bit busy, and I apologize for it. And if anybody would like me to send this to them, Growmark is good enough. We actually take samples from every terminal across our trade region, which is about 16 states. And what you kind of get a drift of, how we talked about ULSD was just a little bit different in 2007 than the old diesels. What you'll see at the very top is Bedford Park. And on the far right is the CFPP, coal filter plug point. And this is our winter additive. And at a single treat rate, 1 to 250, the CFPP is minus 42. There again, with another treat rate, we doubled the treat rate. We didn't gain anything. But if you go down here and you notice on this, the next one is 80-20. So you've got 80-20. So that's 20% number 1 with the SureFlow. Look at the result, minus 9. In today's world, number 1 doesn't do a thing. And we've discovered this time and time and time again that it doesn't do anything. For the next example, Blue Island, Illinois. There again, you got a 7-degree CFPP. You put your additive in it, your winter additive, and these are the responses that you get. But right below that, with no SureFlow, you put 80-20 in there. Look at that. Absolutely no response. So what we've discovered is that, and there again, it's awful busy, and there's 3 pages. There's places where this SureFlow product simply doesn't work on number 2 fuel. And there's also places where a double treat rate is the best. Other places where a single treat rate is the best. But the most common theme is number 1 did not work for cold weather in this region whatsoever. It had no response to ULSD. When we first started with the 20% biodiesel, some people requested number one. It just did not work. There again, I'm just going to fly through these. There's, they're real busy, and if anybody would like to see these or even the newest year's testing, let me know. I'll be happy to pass them on to you. The point of that story, though, I know a lot of people, there again, they're spooked in the wintertime. It's the number two portion of it that you really want to be worried about. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I tried to run through that as best I could in case there was any questions. That's what we do here. We're awful proud of it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you've got.